Hey, sports card fans. Welcome back to another episode of Two Guys, One Hobby with Dawn and John. Dawn, I hope you realize that we have already lied to our valued watchers to the show. I know we've only done one episode. We said, oh, we're not sure when we're going to do a next one. Maybe it's in a couple weeks or whatever like that. And already we're doing episode 2 1 week after the initial episode. We've lied already. How can
I
I
didn't
don't know.
lie. You lied. I never said that.
We'll have to go back to the tape.
Okay.
We'll have to go back to the tape and
For the
see
red
what it is. But I
flag.
know we initially were like, hey, it's going to be loosey goosey. Who knows when the next episode? Jake, I think Legends Never Die. I think he was expecting the next episode in 2024. So this will really surprise him.
Okay.
But yeah, Dawn, you reached out and said, hey, I have a great person that we can have on for our first official episode. So with that, I'll let you take it
Yeah.
over and we'll bring on our very, very first
Don't
guest.
bring this person on yet, but I absolutely did. So I texted you that I think we should alternate and we pick. And I got the first pick, and I'm super psyched to have this person on. Maybe we'll have a contest on who picked the best team. Although I'm saying that in jest because I think we're going to pick a lot of the same people. But I wanted something unique for our first guest video. Yes, we've done one, but I wanted someone who is I have the pleasure of meeting in person, and I think is just an incredible person and a great storyteller. And this person is unique. How do I say it? She's the only woman that I'm friends with in the collection, and I thought it'd be or the collection, the hobby. And I thought it'd be awesome to have her on first. And
Yeah.
I think we should bring her on right now.
Sounds good. And for this is my first time actually getting to interact with her. I've seen her on some live streams and live things, but this is the first time we get to talk to Nina S. Nina, how are you?
Hi, guys.
How does it feel to be the very first guest on the
Oh,
famous Two Guys, One Hobby video series? I mean, you must be like you hit the lottery.
I have hit the lottery. I'm very excited. When Don texted, I was on vacation in Florida. I'm like, what the heck does he want? And
What the heck?
I call him. I finally get a hold of him, and he's like, chit chatting. I'm like, what? He doesn't usually just call for no reason. And then he said what he wanted, and I was like, sure, I'd be happy to be on with you guys. So I'm very honored. Thank you. I hope I live up to the expectations, Don.
We
All right,
set the bars very low. The bar's very low. So
All right, that sounds
I've had the privilege of meeting Nina in person, hanging out. We went to a Cleveland Guardians baseball game last summer with Scott and Bob Lewis, and very cool. Nina is a serious baseball fan. Like I was there to experience a new stadium, a different team, and Nina loves her Guardians. But she's part of my book that I have with the collections, and it was super cool to meet Nina in person. So
it was, even though
I really wanted to have you on here. I said this in the video. Nina, I've given Nina a lot of crap over the last year about not making enough videos, and I could tell she was a teacher before I even met her. I could just tell, like from her stories. I'm like, this woman's a storyteller. I have a feeling she taught before. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were a teacher at one point.
yes.
And I was like, I'm fascinated by her stories, but she doesn't do enough of them. I'm giving you so much crap over the last year or two. Like, Nina, make videos. They're so good. And
But I am woefully lacking in my production. So
no, you personally, I'm like, Nina's on. She's on board. She's making videos. I'm not saying you got to make one every week, but don't go every 8 months, buddy.
all right,
Love it.
work on it.
well, what we're going to be doing here is when we have a guest on, rather than us say, hey, we want to talk about a certain subject, we're leaving it up to the guests to what they want to talk about, anything special about their collection or interest in sports in general. And so, Nina, I think you wanted, and there's another topic that we're going to be talking about a little bit later, but you wanted to talk about, and I think, Dawn, this maybe came from you or from you, Nina, talking to other people on how you've, over the years, switched alliances in terms of the team that you root for. Uh, how does that come about? And does that, in terms of the hobby, maybe how does that change your collecting focus? Do you stop collecting players of one team and then suddenly switch? Do you see some crossover with players and different things like that? So I'll let you start off where you want to in terms of that topic.
All right. Yes, Don and I've talked about this a couple of times, and I guess I never thought about how unique it is. But I grew up. I live in southeastern Ohio. I haven't always lived here, but I grew up here. And my father was from Cleveland, and he went to Ohio University, played football, and then he just stayed here in Athens. So growing up, he was all Cleveland everything. And when I got to be about 10 or 11, I was like, I don't understand why we live in the southern part of Ohio. We should be fans of Cincinnati. And he's like, no, 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 you can't do that. I'm like, yes, yes, I can do that. And I'm going to do that. Now, so I started collecting, and I think my first set was the 1970. Yeah, I'm that old. The 1970 tops. And that, of course, is the beginning of the big red machine era. We've got young Johnny Bench coming up. And so it was a good time to be a Reds fan and to rub it in my dad's face. So, and, I don't have a lot of childhood baseball memories like most of you do. I don't know if it's because I lived far away from a team and didn't get to go to very many games. Um, but I do remember the Reds and the Big Red Machine. In fact, when I was it was either seventh or eighth grade, we actually got out of class to go watch the playoffs. They rolled in a little tiny television, probably about the size of my computer screen, and we all got to go into the auditorium. Now I think it wasn't the World Series, but I'm pretty sure, Don, it was against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
What year was that?
I can't remember if it was one of
the Reds never played against the Pirates in the World Series because they were both National League.
I know they're both National League. No, I'm saying
but championship, yeah.
79 maybe?
No, it would have been earlier than that.
Like
75.
71, 70, something. Oh, I should have looked it up. Sorry, ahead of time. But that was super cool. We actually got out of class to watch baseball. But my math teacher was a super Reds fan. So
funny that you like the Reds, you like Cleveland now, and I don't have a map in front of me, but I bet you live closer to Pittsburgh than both of those cities.
Cincinnati is about 2.5.
Okay, I might be closer. I have a lot of friends that went to OU.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about Oklahoma, Ohio University.
Ohio University.
I've made many trips down there.
Yes. It's not, it's probably about equal distance.
Yeah.
A lot of Pittsburgh Steeler fans in this area. So I know.
And I'm still trying to get you to come up to the Berg because I'm telling you, we have the best stadium. We have the worst team, but we have the best stadium.
Well, I'll get up there someday. Anyway, my dad, God bless him, he did take me to a Reds game. So even though I found the ticket not too long ago. We lost the game, and it was against a National League team.
So what was it that made you change from being a Reds fan to an Indians fan?
So all roads lead to my dad and to my mom, but my parents in retirement, they watch the Indians all the time, and they're always talking about all the different players. I remember they're talking about Coco Crisp. I'm like, that guy sounds like he's like a cereal person. And they're mentioning all these guys. I'm like, whatever, because I wasn't really watching much baseball then. Well, then, sad as life would go, my dad passed he had lived a great life, and he passed in 2016. And, I thought, and my mom loved baseball so much. So I was like, I need to watch the Guardians, Cleveland Indians Guardians, so
Mhm.
that I can talk to her about the players. Well, then, of course, when I started watching, they got really good. So I think I'm the lucky charm for whoever,
Well, I think you're a bandwagon fan.
that is
All comes down to timing. Yep.
that is the truth. Yeah, it was a lot easier watching them knowing that they were super good. And, I fell in love with Francisco Lindor and Jose Ramirez, and it was quite a ride for the World Series in 2018. So, and, they have been pretty good ever since. I can't really complain, especially last year getting into the playoffs with all those, they just showed the other day a video of like 20 of our guys just graduated from high school. So, we have a super young team, but we also have Tito Francona. So
Pittsburgh.
that's how I.
Tito's from Pittsburgh. Gotta like him.
Yeah, Tito is from Pittsburgh. You're right. You
That
told
was
me.
a Major League Baseball player.
Yes.
Did
So,
Cleveland
anyway,
win the World Series in 2015?
who?
Oh, 1948, dude.
No, I thought it was 2015 that they won it again for the
No.
first time. No? Okay.
Coming from the same guy that didn't know O.J. Simpson was the Hall of Fame. Nina,
Yeah,
you want
I
to
know.
new co-host?
I thought who
Guy over here.
what team was it that I'm thinking maybe the White Sox hadn't won it and then won it in the 2010s or something like that. There was one team, I'm not talking about the Cubs, that won it not as long of a stretch as the Red Sox and Cubs, but there was another team, maybe I'm thinking the White Sox and not Cleveland.
No, Cleveland hasn't won since 1948.
48. Okay.
That's why when we played the Cubs in the World Series, everybody's like, "Oh, come on, you've won a World
Yeah.
Series, sooner than the Cubs have." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's no reason to lose the stinking World Series."
Yeah, so I bitched and moaned about my Pirates, who haven't won since '79. I was 12 years old then. But then I look at your Indians going, oh, damn. And you got the Browns. At least the Cavaliers won.
At least the Cavs won, yes.
But man, look at the history of your team. You had an early win, Satchel Paige, Larry Doby, good Lord, who am I missing? Jim Thome.
Kenny Lofton.
Who?
Kenny Lofton.
Bob Feller.
Early win. Great history.
Yes.
Of
They
Cleveland.
really, I think they have a more storied past. Well, I shouldn't say that than the rest. But
and when I went up there this year with Scott and Bob and you, and seeing, I had never been to Cleveland Stadium, which is John. John's a Pennsylvanian, as am I, but he lives about. You live closer than John does. I mean, John's about 3 hours east of me, and Cleveland's only 2 hours from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that, I don't know what you guys call it. It's like a memorial thing. Bob Lemon, early, there's so much history. It was so cool. Joe Charbonneau, he was a great player, but he's part of baseball history.
Right.
Sometimes I wonder if that's better than World Series, to be honest.
Yeah.
Having the history, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong. We all want a World Series, but I don't know. Just the steady pass is so great.
And it's the city, really. I mean, I've been to Reds games in the past couple of years, and then I go to Cleveland, and it's just so powerful watching games there. The fans are so passionate. I don't know if it's the size of the stadium, but it's just a different place to watch baseball. So they are really passionate about their teams up there.
Well, aren't the Browns maybe of late had some success, but from a football team, I think you're going way back as well. But the people, what do they call it? The dog pound or something like that at Cleveland, like all those passionate fans.
Right.
They'll root like crazy for a team if they've won 2 or 3 games, as just as they were in the playoffs. I mean, it's a very passionate fan base.
Have you
Right.
guys ever heard the story of Hank Aaron sitting in the dog pound?
No.
So Hank Aaron, for some reason, was a Browns fan, and I don't know if he was a Jim Brown, like if they were friends, but Hank Aaron was a huge Cleveland Browns fan, and he would sit in the dog pound with a mask on, and no one knew Hank Aaron. Like, Google this or look it up. I don't know the whole history, but Hank
Wow.
Aaron would sit in the frickin' Browns end zone with a mask on and be part of the dog pound. So the guys around him, because they were season ticket holders, knew who he was,
Right.
but he loved it that he could put this mask on and just love his Browns, and no one would, bother him. He played in Milwaukee, Cleveland, and then back to Milwaukee with the Brewers. I don't know where the Cleveland Browns thing came in, but look that up. It's a pretty cool story.
Well, I need to make a clarification. If we're talking about the Browns, I'm not a
I
Browns.
know you're a Bengals fan.
I'm a Bengals fan. I did not make the whole Cleveland switch. So, and
What's cool about where Nina lives? So Nina lives in Athens, Ohio, which, like I said, is most of you probably have no idea where that is, but they think of Athens, Georgia. But I do know where it is. So there's a very famous quarterback from Athens, Ohio, and there's a Hall of Famer that played at OU. I'm pretty sure Nina probably knows who they are. John, I'm going to quiz you here. Give you a couple guesses on who you think those two are. I'm going to one.
So it's the
quarter rise. The football player is still playing,
okay.
and the Hall of Famer is a baseball player.
and I'm having a really good time being a Bengals fan, John.
Nina, he won't get it.
I won't get it because I root for the Cowboys and I could probably only name
What?
6 or 7 players on their roster. The quarterback. I'm trying to remember his name. If you, it doesn't begin. Carson? No.
No. The quarterback. Duh.
Joey.
Go.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Yeah. Okay. I knew it was okay.
No,
Joe Burrow, but Hall of Fame baseball player.
Yes.
Hall of Fame baseball player from Athens, Ohio.
I don't know if he's from there, but he played at Ohio University.
Oh,
His name is not Wade Boggs.
well, yeah, I knew that. What decade did he play in?
In 70s, 80s.
70s, 80s.
Same position.
Same position.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's a football Hall of Famer.
No.
Baseball.
Oh, I thought you said baseball with the same position. I thought you were talking about quarterback again.
I'm talking about Wade Boggs.
Oh, it's third baseman.
Nina, do you want to be my new host?
It wasn't George Brett, was it?
No.
Third baseman. Chipper Jones.
No.
Third baseman. Schmidt?
Yes.
He went to Ohio University. All right.
Yeah. So did Bob Brenly. Not in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Okay.
That's
Bob
cool.
Brenly. That's why I'm a Will Clark fan, because I fell in love with Will Clark. Well,
Is there anyone else, Nina, from OU that made the majors?
not that I can think of off my head.
Okay. So that piece you had Scott make of your dad,
Mm-hmm.
a 50 Gaudi?
Oh, yes.
The OU?
Yes.
Have you seen that, John?
No.
Do you have it near you, Nina, by any chance?
I don't. I have a replica of it. Let me see here. Hold on a second. Let me
Was
see.
it a painting, or what was it that he did?
My dad played football at South High in Cleveland, Ohio, and he the Ohio University brought him in to be both the place kicker and he was a cornerback, not quarterback. And he was here for the first semester, and then he got drafted. So he went into the Navy for a couple of years, and then he wrote a
I was
letter
like, what team to get drafted by? I'm like, oh, maybe.
by the Navy.
Like the Browns, Bengals?
Yeah.
No. Anyway, we found this. Let me see if I can get this up here. Shouldn't get any clearer. John, we found this poster of my dad in the local Applebee's. We rarely go there.
Really?
And we walk in, and my brother-in-law goes, "Oh my gosh, that's your dad." And it's a giant poster. And so we took a picture of it, and I sent it to Scott and asked him to make a 1950s style Bowman painting of it.
Well,
That is
that's the
awesome.
piece that Scott made?
What's that?
That's the piece that Scott made that you're holding.
Well, no, I had to make me some cards.
Okay, because I assumed it was like a painting or a photo.
So
the cards of it too?
The painting went to my mom for Christmas. So it's hanging up.
So I can ask Scott for, like, this is my freaking beauty that I love from Scott.
It is.
Get a card of this made?
Well, if you're special, but I don't know. You're kind of always jabbing him.
Yeah, he doesn't like me a whole lot, but
he didn't do it for free. I commissioned him. Let's put it that way. So.
Oh no, I wasn't expecting it for free, but I'm like, I can get cards of that? Who knew?
He did gift me that lovely painting of Larry Doby, though. So that's been a couple of my videos. That is a treasure to me. So.
No, I mean, he's an asshole, but he's talented. No, I'm kidding. You know, I love him.
There's a little
banner back and forth this morning. I swear I talk to him a couple of times a week, and he's doing something nice for him. Like, we got to be really quiet about this. I can't let people know that we like each other.
There's a little joke in my family that all of my YouTube friends only have one syllable names: Don, Bob, Scott, and now John.
Yeah.
So Alec, no, that doesn't work.
Alex, that's true. What about Harry? Harry doesn't work. Those are two of your favorites, so you're kind of screwed.
Anyway,
Rick, you got Rick.
Yeah.
John's probably like, "Why the heck did you invite her on? We're not really."
No. Hey, so Nina, how?
I just want to talk to people. That's how we get to know each other. I mean, you know, like John said, he's never talked with Nina, and I've had the privilege of meeting you. That's what's so cool about this stuff, because I equate it to, I've gotten on the phone with people, and when Nina, you sent me that Buck Blasters, I picked up the phone right away and felt super comfortable. And my wife was like, "Oh, that's the woman you went to Cleveland with." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's Nina." Like, you know, it's like, that's what I love about this. And that's what I think John and I want this show to be like. So what if we go off on a tangent?
Yeah.
You know, we're doing phone calls live.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
So Nina, okay, with the switch from originally defying your dad and saying, "I'm going to root for the Reds," and then coming back and rooting for the Indians, has that changed your collecting focus in terms of your card collection? Do you find yourself collecting more Indians, or do you still find yourself maybe interested in some Reds cards, or how does that impact your actual collection?
Great question. I would say my focus is primarily Indians, John, especially with the 48 team and the 1918, not 1918, 1920 team. The only other time that the Indians won the World Series. And just the storied past. And I know that the Reds have a similar storied past, but for some reason, we don't hear about it as much. Maybe that should be a passion of mine. Or maybe I'm not in the right circles to hear those stories. But when I kind of made the switch from modern to vintage, I did zoom in on the Indians. like I mentioned, you've got Toby, you've got Bob Feller, you've got Lemon. There's just so many um, outstanding players from that era. And a lot of Don said, I like to do a lot of storytelling, and that's kind of what's in my DNA. And my mom told me, like, when she first met my dad in college, the first thing they ever talked about was the 1948 World Series.
Really?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that's super cool. And I never talked to my dad about that. That's what kills me. Is that I never knew. I wasn't that into it then, and I didn't know that much. And now I'm just kicking myself. I gotta wait till hopefully I make it to heaven with him so I can talk to him about this.
Gotta show some Indian cards for Nina.
Oh, those are gems.
I want to get that Bob Feller. Well, technically, my son has it. It's not graded, but I got him when he was into cards, when he was about 8, 9, 10 years old. He's 21 now, almost 22. I got him a couple of vintage cards. He was mainly into the Yankees, but I saw that Bob Feller. I should have pulled it. It's in his set of boxes, but I got him that 53 tops Feller. It's in decent condition from a local card shop. And I remember uh, showing it to him not too long ago because he knew I was getting back into vintage. And he was just curious about, the cards that he had. And I came across it and he goes, Dad, he says, well, here, you take this card because you like vintage and, you can get it graded or whatever. I'm like, well, no, that's your card. That's, in your collection. I'm not going to say, hey, he won't remember. Hey, you know, he's going to get all this stuff anyway, but
Right.
no,
Right.
it's
Oh,
his
poor
card.
guy.
I'll get my own copy at the right time, but I just love that image of the 53 tops Feller.
Right.
I should have
50.
pulled out my 1950 Bowman Feller because I wanted to ask what was the name of the Cleveland Stadium back at that time? Because obviously they're in a brand new stadium, and I can't remember the name of.
Well, there was before this was Municipal Field, and we were there a long time. I think that's what the 50s team played in, but I'm not 100% on that. It was a field that both the Browns and the Indians used, so it
Oh, a
was
dual sports stadium. Okay.
yeah, it was humongous. I remember I did go there as a kid, and it was cavernous. I mean,
Mm.
back whenever I went to see them, the Indians were terrible. In fact, they lost to the Red Sox.
Mm.
Something
Did you say it's on the back of the 50 Feller card, John?
Well, not the back. The background obviously has the stadium, and it looks like it's the home. Here, let me pull that up here. I
Trying
just
to
love
get-
that. I just
Oh my God, that's one of my
I
favorite.
didn't pull it,
cards.
if
but
it may not even be in Cleveland though. That picture,
it it looks like a home uniform though. Maybe not.
yeah,
Isn't he in a white uniform with the Indians? But
Yeah, but back then, weren't they all kind of white? I mean, I don't.
well, yeah, yeah. I don't know what the away uniform was for Cleveland
Yeah,
though back then.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I was just curious. 'Cause I love, and sometimes you can, if it's really close up shot with those early 50 Bowman cards, you can't quite tell other than maybe the uniform that they're wearing, whether it's their home stadium or not. But just I love some of those shots of those early Bowman, even tops where they have the stadium
yes,
in the back, the crowds, or even when they're empty. The shots taken maybe during warm-ups or something like that. I just love
I'm gonna
those
keep trying to
vintage
show
cards.
Indian cards because I mean on here.
Well, John, that's in fact why I decided to collect the 1952 Bowman set
Mm,
because it has a lot of stadium shots in it.
that's a gorgeous card.
Yeah,
That's a
there's no
gorgeous card.
stadium shot on that, but the clouds are cool.
Yes,
Oh,
good
yeah.
old Bob.
Bob Lemon.
Yeah, see, Near, you're saying about those early, the vintage cards, especially maybe early vintage, but even into the 60s, you get some shots there where you can see stadiums in the background.
Yes, yes. I don't know. It's just more exciting. I think Donna was on your first session of this show, you were showing, players in the background. So maybe it was a player. I remember one of them was Boggs was in the background. And
Yeah, the Hall of Famers in the back.
yes,
Right. Yeah.
That to me is a lot of fun. And you
It
need those in the action shots. So
it totally is. It's such a cheap way to collect cards. It really is. You get those cards for like $1.
right.
And it's just fun because sometimes it's like, we all love getting these cars, but sometimes it's like,
I mentioned in the last episode the Don Mattingly with Boggs in the background.
Yes.
Whoa, when did you know about that before last
Yeah.
week?
Yep. It's 22 Stadium Club with Don Mattingly, but Boggs in the background. So I picked up the base and the red and black parallels.
Yeah, someone sent me, I forget who it was, or not sent me, after the video, they responded like Reggie Smith, 1983, Ryan Sandberg.
Yep.
And not the first again. And it's like, it's just something different. It's fun.
Yeah. Obviously, they mentioned, which I think we missed, the Hank Aaron with technically Willie Mays sliding.
Yeah, I was looking for cheap stuff. Yeah, I guess that's right, but it wasn't. That was an accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the other ones,
I guess technically it was supposed to be.
I guess they're all accidents. You just take pictures.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So
again, so you're collecting mainly Cleveland, now more into vintage, maybe moving a little. I think when you were on one of the shows or channels, you're saying you've moved, maybe not completely, but more into vintage than the more modern players. And again, is that because of the history, the stories that either bring back memories or things that you've looked up about these players or certain years for the team that interest you? Or
right, it's a lot of that. I like that era, the 50s era. I was born in 57, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I don't remember anything about the 50s, but there's just something extra special about that era. And a lot of these guys in the 52 Bowman set were in the military and, served and then came back and played baseball. And I find that fascinating. Um, and it's just fun to research them. Now, the modern cards that I have are mostly of the Guardians and some of the Reds, because I watch these guys, 3 or 4 or 5 times a week,
yeah.
and I like to have their cards and I like to have their statistics because now I flip back into my modern Cleveland book and I can say, oh, remember that year when so and so played for us and then he was really terrible, but he hit that one home run. And so it's all about, I think we all love this because it brings back those memories for us. And and that's why I like a lot of the 70s era, early 70s, because, I did watch a lot then. So,
but also in terms of following a team,
mhm.
I would think that back in again, before free agents, so the 50s, 60s, I'm not sure if free agency was what, early 70s, something, maybe it was
mid 70s, like 76, 77.
And so you had not a whole lot of movement with players back and forth being traded. You got some new rookie call up and stuff. Now it's like you said, going through your binders of, oh, well, this guy played with Cleveland 2 years ago. Now he's on this team. Now we're playing against him, and oh, he just hit a home run again. It's a lot harder, I would think, to follow or get behind some players, because when their contract's up, they could be playing for who knows,
Right.
maybe a rival.
Right.
And so if you're a team, if you root for a certain team, you have to, it's hard to get more attached to the players, where I think back then in the 50s and 60s, you could not only be attached to the team, but get attached to the player.
Right. They stayed with the teams forever. Sometimes, they retired with that same team. Yes, and they played together so long. They got to know each other. Where yeah, it's really hard today. I mean, Lindor is he's a prime example of that. I mean, I was a huge Lindor fan. I
Mhm.
probably have 3 or 4 thousand of his cards. And when he
Well,
left, it just broke my heart. I was just like,
yeah.
what? You can't leave. You're like my favorite player. And we're very happy now because Jose Ramirez basically said, I'm never leaving this team. Give me
Yeah,
all.
he took a huge, not a
Yeah.
pay cut, but he took a lot less than he could have to stay.
Yes, but he said, "I want my name up on the wall there with Bob Lemon and Larry Doby." He goes, "I wanna be retired with the Cleveland Guardians." But,
Mhm.
most players, they can't, it's probably not feasible. For Jose, obviously it is, but,
Yeah.
I understand. You gotta, Lindor, who knows how many times more money he's making with the Mets
Yeah.
than he.
Well, to bring it back to my guy Boggs, everyone thinks that, oh, he went to the Yankees for more money and he wanted to stick it to the Red Sox and go with the rival Yankees and stuff. And no, that's not the case. At the end of the 92 season, um I forget her name now is Yawkey. She came up to Wade and said, "Wade, I want you to sign a contract to be a Red Sox for life." And
Mhm.
he says, "I would love that." Well, she happened to pass away during the offseason, and new ownership came in and said, "Yeah, we want something younger here. We're going to go with this Scott Cooper or whatever. That's going to be our new third baseman or this or that or whatever." And they basically didn't want to sign Boggs. So Boggs was like, "Okay, I'm out of a contract. Who wants me? Who could use a third baseman for a few years?" And the Yankees, I think, gave him I think it was a 4 year contract. So he's like, "Hey, I'm a ball player. I can still play. Here's a team that
Right,
wants me. I'll go play for the Yankees." He didn't say, "Well, screw you, Boston, and I'm going to go for your biggest rival and stick it to you, and also win a World Series."
right,
So there was a player who, if it was up to him, and that owner, just happened not to pass away, Wade Boggs could have been one of those forever Red Sox, just like Ted Williams and Carl Yastrzemski.
right,
But it just wasn't in the cards. But he wasn't being greedy. It just different owners come in
right,
and want to go with a different direction,
right.
and so it yeah.
Well, we're
But
not.
I'm just clearing the record because a lot of people out there think that Boggs went out to screw the Red Sox, and that
How did
wasn't
he
true.
end up in Tampa Bay from the Yankees?
Well, his Yankees contract was up, and again, he was sort of a free agent. He lives in Tampa,
Uh,
so the Devil Rays were fairly newly. I'm trying to think. He went there in '98. They either formed in '96 or '97, so it was the young franchise there.
right,
Had a chance to one play near his where he lived,
right.
and they offered him a couple-year contract. They wanted a potential Hall of Famer. They wanted someone who was close to 3,000 hits, and so he worked out a deal, and then he retired after the '99 season.
Okay.
So that's how his contract with the Yankees. And again, he was I want to say he was in his obviously late 30s, 38, somewhere around there at that time. They had come off a World Series, and I don't think the Yankees offered him another contract. And Tampa Bay said, "Hey, come on home." So that's how he made it to Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
But
I
we,
mean, I'm
you
sorry. Go ahead, Nina.
know, just when you say Wade Boggs, though, you think, Boston. That's
Oh,
Yeah, I agree.
in my mind, he's always a Red Sox.
Right.
Always will be. In fact, I went to Fenway Park on May 5th, 2016. I think that was the date where they retired his jersey number. I drove all the way up to Boston, and a couple other Boggs fans came from. One came from Chicago, one came from Florida, one came from Michigan. There was a whole bunch of us said we're going to that game. We got seats on the lower level on the third base side, and listened to his speech and just all that stuff. Saw the banner drop with his number there on the outfield, number 26. So that was a great time going to see that um, jersey retiring ceremony. So
that is awesome.
Yeah. So what are
so
you saying about teams like for us in Pittsburgh? It was kind of fortunate because we went from Clemente, who I was alive his last couple of years, but I never saw him play. I was like 4 or 5 years old. And Stargell was like the young pup with Clemente. And I did see Stargell play quite a bit, and so it was like we had that transition from Clemente to Stargell, like the Yankees, DiMaggio to Mantle. Like that wouldn't happen today, especially in Pittsburgh. Maybe New York, but we would not have held on to Clemente. We would not have held on to Stargell. It's just a different game. But thank God we have that history. Like, I was talking about Cleveland's history. We have a rich history in Pittsburgh.
You do.
Not in the last 30 years, we don't, but before that, we do. And not only the Pirates, we have the Crawford Grays, or not the Crawford Grays, geez, Pittsburgh Crawfords, the Homestead Grays. Like we have the Negro Leagues were here in Pittsburgh, and there's not a ton of artifacts that I can find, but I've tried. Like I did my Hall of Fame vote this year, like going around trying to find where I went to Homestead where Josh Gibson played, Satchel Paige played. Hannes Wagner literally grew up 15 minutes from where I live. Roberto Clemente Jr. still lives here in Pittsburgh. And that's great. Like, it's like, for me, that's awesome. But I wonder about my son, and it's like, his whole life, the Pirates have been terrible. And
Well,
the season hasn't even started, and I'm already like,
I mean, I feel bad for small market teams. I mean,
you're a small market team.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
We're good. Like we have an owner who does nothing. It's so frustrating. Like as glad and thrilled that I am as Andrew McCutcheon's back this year.
Right.
It's just to get people in the seats. He's
Right.
not playing Andrew McCutcheon. It's like it's just old like, oh, we had an MVP player a few years ago, and
Well, okay, so well, Don, you obviously grew up and lived in the Pittsburgh area, so you were like close and surrounded by Pittsburgh sports.
correct.
And Nina, you're again sort of in between. What?
I live 7 miles from downtown.
Yeah. And Nina, you're almost in my situation where you're not quite in Cleveland, you're not quite in Cincinnati, so you have that area, and like you said, you even have some Steelers fans in your area.
Mhm.
Where I live in central Pennsylvania, there's you got Pittsburgh 3.5 hours, you have Philly 2.5, 3 hours, you have New York, which is again 3.5 hours. And so
Got Baltimore
we
pretty close to you.
but yeah, Baltimore, but again, you're in that
Yeah.
3-hour range, and yeah, there are some Orioles fans, there are some Pirates fans, you have some Phillies fans, you have maybe more Eagles and Steelers, although there's a lot of Steelers fans, and you have the occasional, the Giants fans and Yankees fans and so on, and yet maybe because my family didn't like with your dad, watching the Indians all the time. My family really wasn't into watching a whole lot of sports. So my mom being from New England, I'm like, okay, yeah, the Red Sox. I root for the Red Sox. And some kids at school were like, hey, the Cowboys are pretty cool. Tony Dorsett, and I love Tony Dorsett. And so I became a Cowboys fan. So here I am in central Pennsylvania. I have no allegiance to any Pittsburgh team, any Philadelphia team, any New York team. I'm like Red Sox and Cowboys, and don't really watch any basketball or hockey or whatever to have a skin in the game. So I'm in this weird like bubble where there's no single fan base of a particular city. And so there are a lot of people that just gravitate to maybe players that they liked at one point. Oh, I'm going to follow that team or this or whatever. And it's just a hodgepodge. And in fact, in the National League, I root for the Mets. So that's probably the closest, like in the National League, Mets fan, and in the American League, Red Sox. But
Right.
I know a few Cowboys, Mets fans in the area, and they're far and few between. It's just a weird combination.
Speaking of the Cowboys, Don, you'll like this. So when the Steelers were winning so much. You know how many Super Bowls you won in a decade.
4.
My dad, whenever the Steelers would play in the Super Bowl against the Cowboys, he'd say, "You need to root for the Steelers because you have to be loyal to the AFC." I'm like, "No, I don't. I hate the Steelers."
What? I can't believe I invited you on this show. Oh my God!
Never vote for the
We need
Steelers.
another guest. If I would have known that, oh my God.
So I became a Cowboys fan. Then I actually lived in Dallas for 12 years, and enjoyed cheering
So
for the.
I share my Don. I share my frustration with like lack of success over almost like 30 years. I remember the last Cowboys Super Bowl win, and it fond memories. But other than that, we've
Right.
stunk. Is a or great expectations, all only to just go down in a
Such an overrated
flame of
team.
glory. Yeah,
America's team. Give me a break. Hardly.
yeah. America's disappointment, maybe could
Hey,
be. I mean,
Mike
hey,
McCarthy,
I'm not.
the
Yeah,
Penn
I
State
I
guy.
realize.
I like him. And their coach's brother was my teammate in college for basketball. So those are the only two things I like about the Cowboys. And Sean Lee. But
All right, I have a. We're going to maybe do a segue here because Nina, I know you wanted to talk about another hobby-related topic, but I have a trivia question for both of you. This is maybe a little bit maybe appropriate for this first discussion that we've had. So Nina, we'll see. Not to put you on the spot, but we'll see if you know the answer here. There have been 6 pitchers to win the Cy Young Award in each league. 6 players in Major League history. Who was the first to do it? Who was the first pitcher to win a Cy Young Award in the National League and American League in their career?
Oh, no idea.
One that this pitcher got their first Cy Young Award for the Cleveland Indians.
Oh. I should know.
I have a
He's
guess.
a Hall of Famer.
Can I guess?
I believe a member of the 3,000 Strikeout Club.
Can I guess?
Oh, Don, guess. Go for it, Don.
Gaylord Perry.
Right, you are.
Oh, good.
He won the Cy Young for the Indians in 1972, and then in 1978 for the San Diego Padres.
Well, see, you're asking me late 70s. That's when I was a Reds fan.
Okay, that is true. That
I know
is
Gaylord
true.
Perry. I know Gaylord Perry.
Can either of you name me the other 5 pitchers? And let's see, 1, 2, 3 are Hall of Fame pitchers. 1 is a current pitcher that most likely will be a Hall of Fame pitcher, and another one, there's a debate whether he should be in the Hall of Fame or not, and it's a very heated debate whether he should ever make it or not.
I know 2 of them.
You got me on the spot. My brain just went.
All right.
All right.
Verlander.
Verlander, yes.
Verlander, no.
Really? Oh.
Verlander, no. But it's Verlander's current teammate
Wait, who's he with?
Oh,
for the New York Mets.
Blue Eye, Brown Eye.
Yes. Oh my God.
Kershaw.
No, not Kershaw.
Kershaw's not one. Nope.
Oh my God. Everyone's gonna roast us for not knowing his
I
name.
know.
Max Scherzer.
Scherzer.
Scherzer. All right. So that's the one non-Hall of Famer. What's another? Huh?
Roger Clemens.
Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens is the other one. So Roger Clemens and Max Scherzer are currently not in the Hall of Fame. There are 3 other Hall of Fame pitchers.
The National League, American League.
Yep, National League and American League.
One Cy Young.
Mm-hmm.
And they're Hall of Famers.
One of them has passed away.
So the other 2 are still alive.
Yep.
Don Sutton.
Nope. More modernish players in the era of Clemens. I'm really giving it away here, but
Oh, Pedro Martinez.
yep, 2 more.
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, the Red Sox.
I don't remember what Nolan Ryan, who he pitched, all the play teams he pitched for.
Nolan Ryan never won a Cy Young, I don't believe.
Astros. He never won a Cy Young.
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, we have left John too.
Yep, 2. We have you named Pedro Martinez, Roger Clemens, and Max Scherzer. So we got 2 more.
Tom Seaver.
Nope. That's a good guess though, because yep.
Yeah, he pitched for the Red Sox and White Sox with the Mets and Reds. Carlton, no, he did pitch American League, but I don't think he got a Cy Young in American League.
Nope. They were all with the Phillies.
Yeah. You said more modern. Roy Halladay?
Roy Halladay. That's the one who,
Oh.
obviously got elected to the Hall of Fame after he passed away, I believe.
Right.
So we're down to 1. So we got Martinez, Roger Clemens, Scherzer, Roy Halladay. 1 more.
American League and National League. What era? 80s, 90s?
Early 2000s.
Oh, wow. Randy Johnson.
Played on...
Gotta be Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson is it. That's it. So we have the 6 pitchers in history to win a Cy Young Award in both leagues. We have Gaylord Perry, who did it first. Then I'm not sure which order here, but Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, Roger Clemens, Max Scherzer, and Roy Halladay.
So we did well.
there.
At least I did well. He didn't help much.
Didn't help at all.
We're gonna totally get roasted on Max Scherzer. One of us remember his name. We're like, 2 colored eyes.
Yeah, but
Though, Randy Johnson brings up an interesting point of my ever bouncing favorite teams. I did cheer for the Diamondbacks the year they won the series, since the manager was Bob Brenly.
Yep.
Well, that's understandable.
Yeah.
So obviously I love the Pirates, and it's just ingrained in me. I'm a Pittsburgher. I'm a 3rd generation Pittsburgher. My family's from the 1800s into Pittsburgh. But my father-in-law is from Boston. He loves the Red Sox. I was like, okay, I'm tired of losing. Like, I can't take it anymore. That's around 94 when they won their first, not their first World Series, but the first one in 70 years.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, the Red Sox will be my American League team. And it was awesome going through it with him because he had never seen a World Series, so it was fun. But
I think it was 2004.
It wasn't the same. Oh, that's 94. Yeah, 2004. You're right. I didn't even know my wife in 94. It just wasn't the same. I tried, and I was like, I just don't have the passion for these guys. It was great rooting for you, but you've won 2 World Series since. And you just can't force in a team, which is where when I first talked to Nina about this, I'm like, how could you switch teams? That just baffles me. Like, as awful as our Pirates are, and they're my team,
Well, maybe because you grew up in Pittsburgh. Maybe if I grew up in Cincinnati, it might be different.
Right.
I don't know.
I guess so.
And for those players that are people that say grew up in the New York area in the 50s, you had both the Yankees and the Giants, Dodgers. Okay. So and sometimes it came down to not only the city but the neighborhood that you grew up and your friends, and heaven forbid if you lived in Brooklyn and were a Yankees fan or something. I mean, it's just like it was everyone gathered together. It was a social interaction. Like you walk down the street or wherever, talk to people in the bar or this or whatever, and it was all about the Brooklyn Dodgers, or are they going to finally beat the Yankees this year, and all this stuff, or vice versa. And it was just ingrained in the culture. Now, like I said, with their being more teams, with players not sticking around as long for those teams, you don't get that local connection anymore with the team unless like you grew up. Hey, I've lived in the Pittsburgh. All I know is Pittsburgh teams. It's ingrained in you.
Right.
But like if I were to move to Pittsburgh, I couldn't, just like you. I couldn't get into like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a Pittsburgh. I just wouldn't be able to feel that passion because I'm
Great.
51 years old and I've always
Right.
rooted for the teams I've rooted for, and to just switch. So Nina, for you to have again that ability to switch from the Reds over to the Indians, I think it took something big, which again was the connection with your father,
Right.
which made it. So maybe without that connection, you'd still be a Reds fan, maybe.
I
But
might. Right. I might. No, that's
And
great.
I asked you this the other night when we were talking to get you on the show. I said if the Reds and Indians are playing the World Series, who are you rooting for?
Cleveland.
Yeah, which surprised me. I actually thought you were going to say the Reds.
No.
I don't know why, because everything you show is Cleveland, but
No, I mean, I've pretty much made the switch. You know, it helps that the Reds are not very good, but if the Reds all of a sudden became great, I don't know. I still think that I would vote for Cleveland. I've made the switch, so
I had a hard time in '86, Mets and Red Sox.
yeah.
I at the time, again, this is before I became a Wade Boggs, crazy collector here. Um, I was rooting for the Red Sox to make the World Series. I'm like, when they were against the Angels there and had that comeback and all that stuff, and I was so excited for the Red Sox to make it to the World Series. And then when the Mets made it to the World Series, I'm like, I'm a Mets, and because I would see more Mets games on TV than Boston, I was sort of leaning a little bit more towards the Mets because I had seen, like you said, I'd watched the players, I had followed them throughout the year, and I would hear about, and I knew of the Red Sox players. Um, so my mom was upstairs. She was rooting for the Red Sox. I went downstairs in the finished basement, and I was watching the game from Game 6 down there. And I remember walking upstairs. It was the bottom of the ninth, and there was like one out or something like that. And I walk upstairs, and I said to my mom, "Hey, congratulations! Glad your Red Sox won. I'm happy, because it's a great team." And so I go upstairs to go to bed and just say, "Hey, it's over. Red Sox won the World Series." And then I'm upstairs and I hear my mom go, "No!" And I'm like, Okay." Then another, "No!" I'm like, "What's going on?" So I go into their bedroom upstairs, turn the TV on, and that's when that two outs, base hit, in the air, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what just happened?" So I go downstairs into my mom, and my mom's just like, I thought they finally were going to win a World Series." And I'm like, "Mom," I was like, that is just one of the craziest World Series games I've ever seen." And then, of course, everyone forgets there was a game 7. Like,
yeah,
everyone thought that, oh, that's it, the Mets won. No,
everyone
you
forgets
look
there
at
was a
game
lot of
7. So all
big
that stuff
that
on Buckner,
did that ball.
yeah, Buckner got a bad rap because it's not like he lost the World Series for the
But there
Red
was
Sox had
a lot
another day.
before that, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of stuff involved. Right.
Yeah. So that was just a crazy World Series, but I specifically remember it because, again, I had that competing battle in my head, and with my mom, who, again, she wasn't a passionate, but she grew up following the Red Sox,
Right.
from living up in Massachusetts. So that was ingrained in her. So very
Max,
interesting.
you were talking about the 3 big teams in New York in the 50s, and the book that I talk about incessantly, Doris Kearns Goodwin's Wait Till Next Year,
Yeah, it's a good book.
I think about what happened to New York Giants fans and Brooklyn Dodgers fans. And she couldn't. She said, "I can't be a LA Dodgers fan," and she switched to the Red Sox.
I was just gonna say that she did what you did.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think about, well, there's always threats that they're going to pull Cleveland out of Cleveland. Nashville supposedly wants a team, and I'm like, would I still be a fan of theirs if they went to Nashville? Probably not. I don't know.
I'm
This
with
is the
you. I don't
history.
know if I could follow the Pirates if they went to another city.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you lose all that history because the history was in Cleveland. It was and then Nashville. Like, well, there's no,
Right.
you
That's
know,
like people talking about the Nationals. Oh, well, they're, the record holders are Andre Dawson and Tim Raines and Steve Rogers. I'm like, no, they're not the Expos.
Right.
yeah,
The Nationals. Like, it's not the same.
yeah. I don't get that whole record. Like, yeah, including the Expos players with
Right.
I technically you could, but no, the Expos were in Montreal.
Right.
The
Right.
Nationals were in that. To me, that is a clear break, separate. Like, might as well the old team closed down, never to be
At
again,
least
and here's a
the
new
Giants
team.
and Dodgers kept the name. It's not like
Yeah,
it's Washington Expos.
right.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So, Nina, with we're almost at like an hour here, and of course, again, we've broken our promise, Dawn. We said, oh, we're just maybe like a half hour, 45 minutes with these guests and all this stuff. But we did allow for great conversation to go much longer. But Nina, you wanted to also ask, I think Dawn and I, how we keep track of our collection, maybe store it, but also keep track of our collection. Is that right? Or do you have a specific
So,
question?
I mean, if you could like open the camera way up, you would see this crazy disorganization of my cards. Like I've got 52 Bowman over here, I've got Modern over here, I've got a cupboard full of vintage cards, and
You mean like this? Just stacks of crap laying on your table? That's
and see,
how organized I am.
maybe people can comment on this video of, how do people stay organized? I look at, I'm always asking people, and Alex Bowman 53, he's like, well, he gets one card every month. So it's not that hard to keep track of things.
Right.
But when you're a super collector like you are, John, of Wade Boggs, and I know you have your lovely library drawers back there
Yeah.
full of Wade Boggs cards. You know, how do you stay on top of it? How much time do you devote to it? Like that, your room looks beautiful.
No,
Um,
thank you.
Don, yours is looking not as good these days. It's looked better.
When did the tornado hit,
Why
Dawn?
this looks like that?
Yeah, I didn't realize a tornado hit Pittsburgh area recently, but no.
I'm rearranging the room.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
56 down. It looks awesome. Trust me.
I believe you. I believe you. But
No, it does not.
yeah.
John, what tips do you have for a disorganized card collector?
I'm a combination of organized and disorganized.
Okay.
Organized is my Boggs collection.
Mhm.
So yeah, back there in the library card catalog, except for 2 drawers, I am behind of about 2 years worth of Boggs pickups in terms of putting them in order. But I have an Excel spreadsheet with my master checklist,
Mhm.
and whenever I get a card, I mark it off that checklist. Now, if it's not put in order, then I highlight it. So I can easily go through my checklist, find the highlighted cards, and go, yeah, I need to get these in order.
Okay.
So I know which ones are in the last 2 drawers. So again, if I look at my checklist and it's highlighted, I'm like, okay, it's in one of those last 2 drawers there. Other than that, it's organized by year and then by set name. Okay. So that is fairly well organized. I have my vintage cards in a 2 drawer cardboard box in order by year and number. That's easy to manage. I'm just starting my 4th box, so not a whole lot with vintage. But I have, you may not be able to see which angle here. I don't know. Boxes and boxes. I have 5,000 count boxes. I have smaller boxes where I'll open several packs of cards or boxes of cards or whatever in the past and stuff. And I've opened them up. Some of them I have put in order, which I eventually want to. Some of them I have the stars set aside. I have cards. That is my disorganized, but they're somewhat organized in terms of sport and year. I can generally find something. I may have to look through a couple boxes, say, oh, here are my 2016 cards.
Mhm.
And I may have to look for some of the tops or Gypsy Queen that I have or something like that. But generally speaking, I can find something. Um, it's a little bit harder than if you say, "Hey, John, do you have this one Wade Boggs card I can go,"
Right.
and there it is.
Right.
So it's a combination of a checklist, keeping stuff in order as I get it. I'm not in any given month, I may pick up at the most maybe 5 Boggs cards. So I'm sort of like Alex, where it's easy for me to manage.
Mhm.
If I do buy a blaster box or 2 of a product just to open to have fun,
Mhm.
I'll have a stack of cards like this, and I'm like, which box has an empty slot? Okay, I'll just stick them in there. I'll get around to putting them in order and all that stuff, and time goes by. So
Right.
that's my disorganized, which someday I hope to go through all my boxes, organize it by year and set and card number, maybe pull out Hall of Famers as I see them, things like that, and set them aside. But that's a long, long process. So, Don, I don't know how you are with your vintage. I've seen your vintage collection. I know it's in various stages, and I love those frames, the wall frames that you're doing. They're awesome.
Yes, they are, Don.
So what John saw was we rent kind of a tiny warehouse space. We sell a lot of stuff on eBay, my wife and I. It's not baseball card related. And there was a little room where there were shelves where I thought would be great. And that's what John saw. But I hated it because it wasn't in my house. Like I couldn't see them. So I've kind of brought them all back to this is literally a 10 by 10 room
Mhm.
in our basement. And my wife was like, why don't you put your cards in there?
Mhm.
So it is a mess because that shelf back there was on this wall over here, and I changed my mind. And so for me, putting them in these display cases I made, and I have 3 that are specific for sets, but these 2 back here will not be, which is kind of nice. So for me, to get these cards out
Mhm.
to see is how I will be organized.
Right.
I'm not like right now. If you said, "Hey, we talked about that Phil Negro, John, the
Yep.
SG9, and I found it the other day. You think I could find it right now? Nope. It's in one of these piles, and I want them up that I can see them. I don't. I mean, I have a decent amount of cards, but like I could no way fill that case that John has behind him. Like it's kind of deceiving what you show on videos, what you have.
Right.
I mean, I probably have a couple hundred, maybe 300. Not saying that's not a lot, but you know, like you can kind of see behind me this case that I
Right.
built. It's 5 feet by 3 feet, and I'm in the process of building a second one. So
Nice.
it holds a lot of cards.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's what I wanted. Where the other ones I have are, I'm looking at one over here. You can't see it, but it holds 20 cards.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, these and this one I made adjustable shelves
Right.
so that I can show like the um I'm drawing a blank on it. The Perez Steel autographs, the few I have things.
Oh, yeah, or maybe a 64 Giants,
Yeah, the exhibits
cards,
card.
bigger slabs. Yeah.
Right. So and
Well,
go ahead, John.
when you get situated in your room, Dawn, I'm probably gonna actually have to ask you for some design tips because I'm gonna be moving from this down to about, roughly maybe 10 by 12 room in the new house until I get my basement finished. So I'm gonna have all you see here is gonna be. I'm gonna still have a card catalog. There's a place for that, so I'm gonna have that for my bog stuff. I'm gonna have a little bit of an area for my vintage stuff, and a lot of the other stuff is just gonna have to be packed away somewhere else, especially stuff that I haven't looked through
I
or
can't relate, John.
needed for a
You
while.
you have those shirts like if you I don't know.
Yeah.
Here, I just hung this up.
Oh, nice. The three is that the three that no.
No, it's a bunch of old pirates. And,
Okay.
um, this shelf you saw behind me used to be hanging there, and so all I've done is made a bunch of holes in our walls. I'm like, oh crap, how am I going to cover these all up? Um, because I didn't put a whole lot of planning into it. I was just like, oh, here's wall space, and now it's like, I think this will look better back here. So, oh
I'm
well.
I'm kind of with you, Don. I feel like I want the cards where I can see them. And that's with the modern, that's not possible.
Right.
But with the vintage, there's a chance it's possible. I don't have that many.
Well, you know what I have found? So I'm PSA and SGC, where John's more PSA guy. So I don't really care so much about that. But when I put them up, like I'm looking at my 64 top stand ups, and I have my 54 Hall of Famers over here. Like I can't tell the condition of the cards.
Mhm.
Now, if I got right up on them, obviously I could. But I don't care where I did before. Like, oh, I need the centering, and I still do care about that. But when
Right,
they're displayed, that's all out the window. It's just like, wow, they look so nice together. The whole
right,
set. It's like I'm just happy I have Ron Santo, I have Ernie Banks, I have Clemente, I have Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, Juan Marichal. I'm just
right,
looking at the list. And for me, it's more enjoyable because it's like, yeah, I as much as I love YouTube and I do, this community is great. I think sometimes it almost influences me in a negative, like, oh, this car's gonna be so centered and it's gotta be this, and it's gotta be that. And it doesn't. It's like I have the card.
right,
Yeah.
And I also have the mindset like, if it wasn't for YouTube, no one would ever see these. Like no one cares why how centered your 54 Oy Wilhelm is. No one cares but you,
right.
you know?
No,
Oh, yeah.
I specifically bought a 50 Larry Doby Bowman, 50 Bowman that is total
Great.
crap because I wanted to just hold the card and think about, well, how did this card get so messed up? Some
Right,
little kid had this card and he
right.
probably carried it in his shoe or in his pocket or something. And I love that card. And
Yeah.
it cost me $20 or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's I have my collecting criteria, and it's more just because of like I haven't been diagnosed, but I swear I have OCD, and it's to some level that it just if I see
Reality is, yeah.
something that is just off, I can't enjoy the card. But I can appreciate other people when they get Nina. Like if I had seen the video, wherever you showing off that card that is all crumpled up, but you are excited to own that card, and here's why, and the story, or what could the story be behind this card, or someone shows off a card that's ungraded, or even if it's graded and they love the corners of it. The corners are so sharp, but to them it came out of the pack off center, and to them that's a legit card, and they're excited about owning that card. I think that's great.
Right.
Now, I may not say, "Oh, I would love that particular card in my collection," because I may not find it visually appealing for my collection, but I can appreciate others saying, "I don't care about sending. I just want to own the card. I want to, and I don't care that it's a 2. I don't care if it's a 6 or 5 or whatever." Um, to me, if someone shows that card off and shows like they're excited to have that in their collection, I'm happy for them. I think it's great.
Right. I hear you. I second that emotion.
Hmm.
Excuse me.
Well, you've given me some good ideas. I've been watching a lot of G's Mikey lately, and his
Mhm.
binders. Wow, I just love his whole setup with his binders, and that he tears them apart, he puts them back together again, but he has them so he can flip through them.
Yep.
Or Nate,
Different way to collect.
yeah,
I'm not a binder guy per se, but
yeah,
he's got a great collection. Pepino Man's got a ton of binders. My boy here in Pittsburgh, Dean,
yes,
I collect everything, has a ton of binders.
right,
Just different ways to do it.
right.
Mhm.
Well, I'm glad to know I'm not alone with a few stacks and piles too. So
No, well,
Once I eventually get more room, I've thought about years ago when I first collected, I'd collect complete sets, and I would have them all in a binder.
Right.
But it got to the point where, you'd have 8, 10 sets and those binders of 792 dollars. It's like, where the heck, I'm a kid in high school or something. Where the heck am I going to put all these binders and stuff? Well, if I have a chance to have maybe like some solid bookshelves or something like a 2 row where I can display the sets that I have rather than sticking them in boxes in some corner somewhere and say, yeah, I have a complete set of whatever.
Right.
Put them into binders and have the occasion to take it out, thumb through actually look and enjoy the cards. I
Right.
like to be able to do that.
Right.
But even right now, especially now
Right.
moving in until I get that basement finished, there's no way I can even undertake that. So, but at one point, I would like to have them back in the binders
Right.
so I can actually enjoy and look through the cards
Right.
rather than just have them in cardboard boxes in a shelf or a closet somewhere.
Yeah. We all can dream.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
So, Don, you have anything else here you want to
No,
discuss here with Nina or Grover? Or
we're an hour, 20 minutes in.
yeah,
Nina,
not
I
bad.
appreciate you being our first guest.
Yeah.
very honored.
Glad to have you. Glad you would join us.
Yes, and everyone, definitely, as Nina said, we'd love some comments about what you thought about the show. Any suggestions you have for Nina on how she can organize, display, uh, keep better track of her collection, things like that. Welcome to do that as well. You can make fun of me for missing again another trivia question. You can always make fun of Dawn for not getting Max Scherzer.
And
We'll take it all, positive, negative comments, but at least like the video. I mean, at least say, hey, I was entertained to some extent. I laughed at John. All right, give it a nice big thumbs up. So, but Nina, yes, thank you so much
Thanks.
for not only agreeing to be on this show here, but being our first ever guest. Because never know with Dawn what the heck's going to be going on. So,
thank you both so very much.
yeah. All right. So, hey, with that, guys, thank you all for watching another episode of Two Guys, One Hobby. Go check out the next video whenever we decide to post it. I don't know. It's my turn now to pick a guest. So we're going to see who I pick. I have a couple people in mind. Some people have reached out and said, yeah, I'd like to be on the show. So we'll see who that is. But yeah, until next time, as always, hey, thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone.